for some answers, some analysis. Let me turn to Mark Weiss. He's a retired American Airlines captain and president of the Weiss Consulting Group. Mark, good to see you. How reliable is this system that alerts pilots and the crew to potential hazards on flights? It seems like it's awfully dated.
Well, it is dated, but it is reliable. I mean, this is the first time I've heard of a situation like this occurring, and I flew for airlines for over 30 years. So, but like everything else, it needs to be updated to keep up with the technology that's currently out there.
So, do you agree with officials here in Washington, including Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, saying there's no indication that cyber issues are to blame?
Well, I haven't heard of anything at this point. It's certainly something that is in the back of everybody's mind. I mean, anytime you talk about technology, you always want to have those firewalls to prevent something like that. But at this time, it doesn't seem like that was the case.
And Mark, you've flown for many, many years. How vulnerable are we? Can something like this happen again? Is this more about technology, or is this more about safety, or a little bit of both?
Well, what you use the NOTAMs for is a safety issue. It's technology in the sense that it's rather outdated and hasn't kept up with the technology that's currently out there. So we need to keep abreast with that. But it's a critical part of a dispatcher and a pilot's portfolio when you take a flight, that you have this information available to you.
Do other organizations similar, the equivalent of FAA, I should say, Mark, in Europe, in other parts of the world, you never hear of problems like this with those institutions like FAA. I mean, do they deal with similar problems?
Well, we haven't had a problem like this in my memory. Whether or not they've had problems like this in Europe with EASA or in Asia, I'm not aware of any, to be honest with you, and I've flown in various parts of the world. This is the first time that I have heard of it. If there have been glitches, they've been very short-lived. But the NOTAMs are really required by law that the dispatcher has to go over them and send them to the flight crew so that the flight crew can review them for the safety of flight. And it's not just for the destination airport, but remember, flying is about safety. So you have to know the critical elements, not just at your airport, but en route, or if you have to go to an alternate airport. Nobody likes when delays like this happen. It does damage to crew scheduling. It does damage to aircraft maintenance requirements for having when you can schedule everything. So this is something that needs to be addressed now, because we certainly don't want this to happen in the future.
And Mark, finally, how easy or complicated is it to revamp or redo this NOTAM system?
I honestly don't know the answer to that, but I would think that based on the technology that's currently out there, it should not be that difficult a fix.
All right, Mark Weiss, thank you so much.